My father always humiliated me and favored my brother, until a DNA test revealed the truth. Growing up, I was never the child. I was the afterthought. My father constantly reminded me that I was a disappointment. He would tell me things like, "You'll never be as smart as your brother," or "Why can't you be more like him?" My brother, Daniel, was the golden boy. He got everything: the new bike, the better clothes, trips with dad, praise at every dinner table conversation. Meanwhile, I got leftovers, sarcasm, and humiliation. Even extended family noticed it, but they just brushed it off as siblings being treated differently sometimes. When I graduated high school, my dad didn't even come. He said it wasn't important. But when Daniel graduated, he threw a huge party, invited the entire neighborhood, and gave him a car. That was the moment I realized I was never going to be good enough in his eyes. Years later, my father's health began to fail. He ended up in the hospital with serious complications. Doctors said he would need a donor for a life-saving procedure. Naturally, Daniel stepped up first. Everyone assumed he'd be a match. But then came the shock. Daniel wasn't a match. They tested me next, almost as an afterthought, and I was a match. That's when everything exploded. The hospital requested a family DNA panel to confirm compatibility, and the results uncovered something no one expected: I was my father's biological child. Daniel wasn't. The man who had ignored me, humiliated me, and dismissed me all my life, was actually my real father. The son he adored, spoiled, and left everything to, wasn't biologically his. The news shattered the entire family. My mother broke down because she had been hiding the truth for decades. My father sat in silence for hours, unable to process that the daughter he despised was actually his blood, while the son he cherished wasn't. Suddenly, everything shifted. My father wanted to talk to me, apologize, build a relationship. He even told me he was going to rewrite his will and leave me the house, the same house I grew up in, feeling like a stranger. But here's the thing: I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I want him. The years of cruelty and neglect don't just disappear because biology says otherwise. Now my father is desperately trying to make amends before it's too late. My brother, on the other hand, feels betrayed and abandoned, for the first time in his life. And me? I'm stuck in the middle of a truth I never asked for. I don't know whether to forgive, or to finally walk away for good. The night after the DNA results came back, I couldn't sleep. My phone was blowing up with messages from family. Some of them were telling me how lucky I was that Dad finally recognized me as his real daughter. Others told me not to hold the past against him, as if decades of humiliation could be erased with a single test result. I didn't respond. The next morning, I visited him in the hospital. He looked frail, weaker than I had ever seen him. His usual proud, cold glare wasn't there. Instead, he looked almost ashamed. When I walked in, he whispered my name. He never used to say it kindly. This time, it felt different. "I was wrong about you," he said quietly. "I should have treated you better. You're my blood, my daughter. Forgive me." It was strange, almost unreal, to hear those words after years of insults. My entire childhood flashed before my eyes: birthdays where he didn't show up, Christmas mornings where he gave Daniel expensive gifts and handed me socks, the times he told me I was a mistake. And now, because of some DNA test, he wanted forgiveness? I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, feeling a mixture of anger and pity. He looked so small in that hospital bed. That same evening, my brother Daniel came to see me. He was furious. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "He's my dad. I'm the one who's been there for him. You think you can just walk in and take everything?" I didn't even know how to respond. Daniel had always been the favorite, the chosen one. Now, for the first time, he felt what I had felt my entire life: rejection. But instead of sympathy, I felt bitterness. He had enjoyed all the love, all the opportunities, all the support. And I had gotten nothing. Now he was angry because the roles had flipped. Days later, my father called for a family meeting at the hospital. He said he wanted to set things right. In front of everyone, uncles, aunts, cousins, he announced that he was changing his will. The house, his savings, everything, was going to me. The room went silent. Then chaos broke out. Daniel stormed out, slamming the door. My mother started crying again. An aunt accused my father of playing favorites again, only this time in reverse. One cousin whispered that I had manipulated him. I sat there in shock. For years, no one cared when I was ignored, humiliated, and pushed aside. But now that I was being given something, suddenly everyone had a problem with fairness. The irony was painful. That night, I went home and stared at the ceiling for hours. I thought about whether I even wanted the inheritance. That house was filled with ghosts of my childhood, the sound of my father yelling, the feeling of being unwanted. Did I really want to carry that with me? And then, there was the question of forgiveness. My father was running out of time. He wanted to die in peace, with his real daughter at his side. But could I give him that peace, knowing he had stolen mine for so many years? The truth is, I don't know. Every time I look at him, I see both the broken man who regrets everything, and the cruel father who made me hate myself as a child. And every time I look at my brother, I see the kid who got all the love I never did, and now resents me for being the real one. This DNA test didn't just change my family. It ripped it apart. And I have no idea how to put the pieces back together. After that family meeting, nothing in my life felt the same. It was as if a curtain had been pulled back, and everyone had to face truths they'd rather leave buried. For me, it was a twisted sense of validation mixed with rage. For Daniel, it was betrayal. And for my father, it was guilt, eating him alive in real time. Daniel's rage. A week after the will announcement, Daniel showed up at my apartment. He didn't knock politely, he pounded on the door like he wanted to break it down. When I opened, his face was red, his eyes glassy with anger. "You're destroying everything," he shouted before I could even say hello. I tried to stay calm, but my heart was racing. "Daniel, I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know." "Don't play innocent," he cut me off. "You hated Dad your whole life, and now you're letting him hand you everything. You didn't earn it." I was there for him. I made him proud. "And you're just some DNA mistake that Mom lied about." That last line hit me like a punch to the chest. DNA mistake. That was the word my father used to say, wasn't it? Not in those exact terms, but close enough: unwanted, worthless, second best. Hearing it from Daniel now burned worse, because I realized he was terrified of losing the only identity he'd ever had. "You don't get it," I said, trying not to cry. "You had his love your whole life. I had nothing. Now you know what it feels like." Daniel's jaw clenched. For a second, I thought he was going to hit me. Instead, he turned and stormed off, slamming the door so hard that a picture frame fell from my wall. I sat down on the floor afterward, shaking. It wasn't just about inheritance. It was about two kids, both victims in different ways. One was fed too much love, the other none at all. And now the balance was violently shifting. My mother's confession. 2 days later, Mom called me. She sounded exhausted, her voice trembling. "Can we talk? Just us?" I agreed, though part of me didn't want to see her. She had been complicit in all of this, standing by while my father humiliated me, feeding Daniel's pedestal, never protecting me. We met at a quiet cafe. She sat across from me, clutching her coffee cup like it was the only thing holding her together. "I should have told the truth years ago," she began. "Your father was unfaithful when we were young. I found out when I was pregnant with Daniel. I stayed, because I thought I could forgive him. But then, when you were born, he doubted you were his. He treated you differently because deep down, he believed you weren't his blood. I stared at her, stunned. So he hated me for being his daughter, because he thought I wasn't? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. And Daniel, he was my way of keeping peace. Your father adored him, and I leaned into that, thinking at least one of you would have a stable childhood. I thought I was protecting you from fights. I was wrong. I abandoned you in my own way. Her confession felt like salt in an open wound. I wanted to scream at her, but I didn't. Instead, I just asked. Why tell me now? She wiped her face. Because your father doesn't have much time left. He wants forgiveness, and I know I don't deserve it either. But I don't want you to carry this hate forever. It will eat you alive, like it ate him. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because part of me still wanted them both to suffer for what they'd done. The house. A month later, my father was discharged from the hospital. His health was fragile, but he insisted on bringing me to the family house, his house. Walking through the door was surreal. Every corner held memories. The kitchen where I'd wash dishes while Daniel showed off his grades at the table, the living room where Dad would cheer for Daniel's soccer games on TV while ignoring my art projects, the hallway where I overheard him once telling a relative, "She'll never amount to anything." Now, he wanted to give this house to me. We sat in the living room together, the silence thick. Finally, he spoke. I can't change the past. I can't undo the pain I caused you. But I can give you this. A home. Security. Something to prove I see you, really see you, as my daughter. I looked around. The walls felt heavy, suffocating. I didn't want this place. I didn't want the ghosts. Why now? I asked quietly. Why did it take DNA to make you love me? His hands trembled on his lap. Because I was a coward. I doubted. I let my pride blind me. I convinced myself Daniel was mine, and you weren't. I was wrong. I wasted years. And now I don't have many left. I just want you to know you were always mine. For the first time, I saw him cry. And it broke me. The choice. Now I stand at a crossroads. The will is being rewritten. Lawyers have contacted me about paperwork. My father calls almost every day, wanting to talk, to make plans, to share stories he should have told me decades ago. Daniel refuses to speak to me. Mom is begging me to reconcile. And me? Some nights I think about accepting it all, the house, the inheritance, the chance to finally be recognized as his. Other nights, I want to burn it all down, sell the house, and disappear. Because the truth is, even though biology proves I am my father's child, the love I needed never came. Not when it mattered. Not when I was a little girl begging for his approval. And no DNA test, no will, no inheritance will ever give that back to me. The question is, do I let him die with peace, or do I finally take mine? After weeks of silence, I finally got the call I knew was coming. It was a rainy Thursday morning when the hospital rang. My father's condition had worsened overnight. If you want to see him, the nurse said, come now. I stood frozen in my apartment, phone in my hand, staring at the raindrops sliding down the window. For years, I dreamed of this man needing me, begging for my presence. And now, when it had finally happened, I didn't know if I could face him. But something in me, anger, love, habit, I don't know, pushed me out the door. The final goodbye. When I entered his hospital room, he looked smaller than ever. Tubes snaked from his arms. Machines beeped faintly. His eyes flickered open when he saw me. You came, he whispered, a faint smile crossing his lips. I sat beside him, unsure whether to hold his hand. Finally, I did. It felt strange, like touching a stranger. I don't deserve this, he said. I don't deserve you here. Tears filled his eyes. My father, the man who had spent my entire childhood tearing me down, was crying, apologizing. I wasted everything, he said. I wasted you. For a moment, I thought about unleashing everything I had kept locked inside, the nights I cried myself to sleep, the humiliation, the birthdays forgotten. But looking at him, so weak and broken, the words felt empty. Instead, I said quietly, "I just wanted a dad." He squeezed my hand, and then, he was gone. Just like that. No grand gesture. No long speeches. Just silence. The funeral. The funeral was a battlefield. Daniel stood at the front, giving a speech about what a great father he was. He listed every soccer game Dad attended, every proud moment, every gift. It was a golden boy tribute, painting a man I barely recognized. When it was over, relatives whispered about the will. Some looked at me with envy, others with suspicion. A cousin muttered loudly, "She got lucky. DNA jackpot." I wanted to scream that nothing about this felt like luck. That DNA hadn't given me a father, it had only revealed the emptiness of what I'd lost. After the service, Daniel cornered me again. "Don't think this is over," he hissed. "That house is mine." He raised me. He was my dad. Not yours. His eyes burned with hatred I'd never seen before. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about property. It was about identity. Daniel's entire life had been built on being the son. Without it, who was he? The inheritance. Weeks later, I sat in the lawyer's office. Papers were spread across the table. The house, the savings, even some investments I hadn't known about, all mine. The lawyer slid the documents toward me. "Congratulations," he said. "You're the sole beneficiary." The words felt hollow. Congratulations? On what? Gaining walls full of childhood pain? A bank account that couldn't erase scars? When I walked out of that office, Daniel was waiting outside. "You stole everything from me," he spat. "I didn't steal anything," I replied, my voice shaking. "It was never mine to give or take. He made this choice." "No. You manipulated him. You poisoned him against me." His face twisted with rage. For a moment, I thought he might lunge at me. Instead, he turned and walked away, his voice echoing down the hall. "You'll regret this." The house revisited. A month later, I finally went back to the house. Alone. The keys felt heavy in my hand. When I pushed the door open, the smell of old wood and dust hit me. Everything was the same, Dad's chair in the living room, the pictures on the walls, Daniel's trophies still proudly displayed. None of my childhood drawings, none of my accomplishments. It was like I'd never lived there. I walked through each room slowly. Memories flooded me, most of them painful. The sound of my father yelling, the sight of Daniel opening new gifts while I sat empty-handed. When I reached my old bedroom, I stopped. The wallpaper was peeling, the bed frame creaked, and in the corner was the small desk where I used to do homework while Dad told relatives, "She's not very bright, but at least she tries." I sat down on the floor and cried harder than I had in years. Not because I missed him, but because I realized this house had never been a home. And it never would be. My decision. The next morning, I called the lawyer. "I want to sell it," I said. "All of it." Silence on the other end. Then, "Are you sure?" I was. Keeping the house meant living inside wounds that would never heal. Selling it meant freedom. Weeks later, the deal was done. I took the money, packed what little mattered, and moved to a different city. A fresh start. Daniel hasn't spoken to me since. Mom tries, but I keep my distance. Maybe one day I'll forgive her. Maybe not. As for my father, sometimes I wonder if I forgave him in that hospital room when I held his hand. Or maybe I just let go of the anger because it was too heavy to carry any longer. What I know is this: biology doesn't make someone a parent. Love does. And no DNA test, no inheritance, no house could ever replace the father I needed but never had. So now, I'm building my own life. My own peace. My own home, one filled not with ghosts, but with love. For the first time, I'm not living in his shadow. I'm free. The aftermath continues. I thought selling the house would be the end. But it wasn't. A month later, I received an envelope from the court. Daniel was suing me. He claimed I had manipulated our father in his final days. The case dragged on for months. Relatives testified against me, saying I had turned Dad away from Daniel. It hurt, because none of them had ever defended me as a child, but now they all had opinions. My mom came to me, asking me to reconcile with my brother. She said he was suffering. I only asked her, "Where were you when I was suffering?" In court, the judge eventually ruled in my favor. The will stood. Everything remained mine. Daniel stormed out, glaring at me, and hissed, "You won the money, but you'll never have what I had, his love." And he was right. I inherited the estate, but not the childhood I needed. I sold the house, used the money to start fresh, and finally felt free. Daniel doesn't speak to me. Mom tries to reach out, but I keep my distance. I learned one thing: biology doesn't make someone a father. Love does. Moving on. It's been over a year since my father passed, and since the inheritance battle ended. Daniel and I haven't spoken since the court ruling. Sometimes I wonder if we ever will, but deep down, I think that chapter is closed. My mom still calls from time to time, trying to repair the relationship. I keep my answers polite but distant. I can't forget how silent she was when I needed her most. Maybe one day forgiveness will come, but not now. As for me, I used the money to build a new life. I moved into a small, peaceful home that finally feels like mine, no ghosts, no shadows. I went back to school, pursued the dreams my father once dismissed as pointless. For the first time, I feel free of their expectations. I'll never have the childhood I wanted, but I can choose the future I deserve. And that's my closure.